G'day everyone, it's NQ Explorers again. Today we're in the remote north of Australia on the Cape York Peninsula at the site of a World War II airstrip. This airstrip was used by both the Royal Australian Air Force and the United States Army Air Corps for fighter and bomber operations against New Guinea and Bougainville to the north, which we're not very far from New Guinea here. The strip was a very large complex. What you're looking at here is not a road, it's actually a dispersal taxiway where the aircraft were dispersed all through this bush here. We're quite a distance from the main strip, and this is where the aircraft were taxied into the bush and camouflaged up and serviced and fueled in these areas. As you can see, there's a fuel drum dumped to my right here amongst those palms. So very large complex in its time. The main strip's still in use in a much truncated form for modern use, but the area, all this area around it is just been left to the bush, and there's a couple of aircraft wrecks in here we'll have a look at, or remains of aircraft. So hopefully we'll might be able to pick a few old relics out amongst the drum dumps and the bits of broken bitumen on the taxiways. There's a lot of personnel here, like tens of thousands of personnel pass through here, both United States and Australian. So the ideal thing would be to locate one of the tent encampments, but logically they wouldn't be very far from the aircraft revetments. So I'll just keep hunting around in these areas here. There's these bushland areas adjacent this dispersal taxiway, and we might come up with some finds. So back shortly with the first find. Well, how about this? I just come across this fuel drum dump, 44-gallon drums. These things are spread all through the bush on both sides of the airstrip. Most of them aviation fuel, but some were used for bitumen for servicing the runway. So what I'm going to look for in between these drum dumps is campsites where the personnel were camped. So they're all camped all around this area. There's a dispersal taxiway just to my left, and further down this track are some bomb-proof revetments. So the maintenance personnel and the air crew too were all camped through this area. So hopefully we'll get the detector out and we'll start swinging, and we'll see if we can come up with some old relics from World War II. Back shortly. Well, that track, the bush track there to the left, is the what was the original dispersal runway, which leads to the revetments. But I've found this large area here, which is all bitumen surfaced. I would say as an aircraft maintenance area. It's quite a large area. You could fit a couple of bombers in here, probably Beaufort's bombers were in this area, and as you can see further over in the bush there's more drums, more fuel drums. A lot of the empty drums are used for engine maintenance, for the like the engine crews that stand on the drums and things like that to work on the aircraft. So that's where there's just drums everywhere all through the bush. But this is a fairly large area of hardstand here, so I'd say this is a maintenance bay. Righto, we'll just keep heading down that dispersal bay and see if we can find any evidence of an old camp or something like that. Well, if you can make that track out there in the distance, that's the dispersal taxiway. I'm just off to the side and I've just discovered the remains of what looks like maybe a P40 Kittyhawk. I know there's a couple of Kittyhawk wrecks in this area, but it's still got, if you can have a look at that, you can still see the original, that green paint they used to use on the inside of the aircraft. That's part of a main spar on the wing. I'll see if I can find any numbering or a serial number on it or something. But it definitely aircraft parts. There's part of the outer skin. And there's the inside ribs. Unreal. Oh, here's a further fuselage section. It's definitely a P40, I'd say. I'll see if I can get a number off this, and I might get a part number and I'll be able to Google it and positively identify the type of aircraft this is from. But as you can see, the bush has just taken this back, this area. It's we're at quite a distance from the main strip too. We're about 1 kilometre into the bush on the side, so obviously it was a war, so aircraft were well dispersed from the runways because of Japanese bombing attack. But yeah, I'd love to identify this as, that looks like a P40, the size of the rear fuselage there, probably behind the cockpit. Okay, good one. We'll get the detector out shortly and we'll start hunting around this area. Okay, I'm directly across that dispersal taxiway now from that P40. Have a look at this drum dump. Clearly refuelling area. They're all through the bush here. The old 44s. Unfortunately, they've all been burnt with a bushfire, so there's no paint left on anything, and I can read any markings. I have found them in this area before with some of them are US Army Air Corps markings on them, some are R.A.A.F. But yeah, imagine the logistics of getting all this fuel up to these aircraft to fly combat missions from this airstrip. Unreal. Okay, on we go. Okay, I've got the detector out. I'm about to start the hunt. Another drum dump. This one's interesting though, check this out. Department of Defence, Ream Australia, 164445. I'm not sure about that number, but I guess one of those may be a date, 44 or 45, but Department of Defence field drums. Good one. They left a bit behind, didn't they? As you'd expect. To get it back out again would be another massive logistic exercise. Okay, I'm going to go over the other side of that dispersal taxiway. Something caught my eye over there. It looked like a fairly flat area that may have been a camp, so I'll run the detector over that and see what we can. I might seem to be fascinated by drums, but look at this one. It's got United States Navy on it, USN. And there's one over here. Unfortunately, it's rolled upside down. It says property. It says property of Air Forces United States of America. And then it's got some serial numbers on it. So obviously combined Australian and US forces here. This one here's a US Navy drum, USN. Unreal. Okay, I'll get started with the hunt. Well, here's the first target in this area, not surprisingly. A drum bung. What else could there be? Of course, drums everywhere. Never mind, they might have dropped something else in between all the drums. We'll just stick in this area for the next half an hour or so and we'll see what else we come up with. Back shortly. Well, here's our next aircraft wreck. It's the remains of a Royal Australian Air Force DAP Beaufort bomber. What you're looking at there is the rear fuselage section with the mid-upper gun turret there. That would have been a, pretty sure that was a either a twin 303 mount or a 50 cal Browning. Unfortunately, none of the original exterior paintwork's visible. You can see the rear tail section over there in the distance. I'll subtitle the historical details on this wreck with the serial number if I can find it through research. But yeah, the forward section's gone. But there's the centre fuselage, the rear fuselage is over there, and the main wings are in that area. So, like I said, I'll subtitle the details of how this came about. Yeah, pretty sad old relic in the middle of nowhere. But we're probably about 1.5 kilometres now from the main airstrip, so this aircraft is well dispersed. I'm not quite sure if it was bomb damaged by Japanese raid or it actually crashed here. I would say it was a bomb damage wreck, or it could have returned from New Guinea damaged. Anyway, look, I'll subtitle that information and we'll go over and have a look at that tail section. Well, that's the midsection of the fuselage there, and the tail sections are resting over here. That's where the serial number would have been painted, but unfortunately that's not visible anymore, as you'd expect after 70 years laying in the bush with a palm tree growing through the tail. Yeah, it's a pity there's none of the original paintwork visible. Actually, you can see the wishbone there for the tail wheel. Good one. Okay, we'll go and have a look at the wing sections. Well, these are main wings. Two wings resting side by side. No, looks like that's the outer section of the wing immediately outboard the engine mount. There's no visible engines or engine mountings at all. Okay, so that's the outer wing sections. Well, the first point I'm making, look at the colour of the soil, it's just absolutely bright red. But I picked up a few of these aluminium, thin aluminium sheet metal. Looks like I'd say that's the aircraft skin. There's quite a bit of it around this area, so this could have been a part where they pulled a panel off or something, and it's a lot of this stuff's been melted in bushfires, unfortunately, and I guess immediately after there was a lot more relics here than what there are now, but little bits of aircraft skin laying around. Like I said, there could be old access panels and things like that that were left behind, or engine cowlings and that sort of thing, so we'll just keep hunting in this area. Actually behind me here, oh, it's not going to be visible, there's a small earth mound which would be the remains of one of the old bomb-proof revetments that runs around this area, so this would have been a dispersal bay for a fighter probably. And there's actually an old fuel drum just over there next to that tree, so would have been a definitely a dispersal bay. Okay. Check out these seeds here, they call them Bushman's clothes pegs, because the old bullockies and drovers used to use them to hang their clothes up. They're quite effective as a peg. That's the way the seed opens up, and they're all lying around under this tree here. I'll just subtitle the name of the tree, but it's a bit hard to pick which tree it actually came off. No worries. Okay, we'll just keep hunting around this fringes of this drum dump. It looks like there's another aircraft revetment over here. It's quite a large high earthen bank. Off we go in that direction. Well, here's my next find. It's on the edge of this drum dump near the revetment. Looks like it's some sort of, possibly a fuel line. It's only a small diameter, but it's got a brass fitting on it. Definitely aviation related. So that may be some kind of aircraft fuel line. Not sure. That looks like stainless steel. So it was a high quality part, whatever it was. I'll just take that back home and I'll see if I can get, if it's military, there'll definitely be something stamped on that fitting. Okay, that's a good little find. On to the next one. Well, I just got that fuel line, and my next find is unbelievably a coin. But based on the tone I'm getting, it's quite low, and the size, it looks like it's 20 cents. Yeah, I think there's Queen Elizabeth. Definitely it's a 20-cent piece. Yeah, it is. Well, look at that, eh? Someone's been here since World War II other than I have. Anyway, I got a coin from the hunt. Whoa! Okay, on to the next target. Another dispersal area. This time it's actually bitumen. It's bitumen face with the drums around the periphery, and another drum bung. Dug a few of these now. Pretty exciting stuff. But hey, look at that. It's actually got the shell on it. It's a pretty good relic actually. Might keep that one. What a beauty. 1940s shell drum bung. Very historic item. There we go. Move on to the next target. Well, out of this hole about 2 inches down, a 303 casing. Obviously fired, you can see where the pins hit the end there. I'll get the markings off it, and we might have some more information on there, whether or not it's an aviation round or it's just a spent round from a rifle. But of course some of these aircraft did have 303 calibre machine guns on board. So anyway, I'll subtitle any information on that, and then we'll move on to the next target. Well, this one's just a shallow scrape. It's another aircraft part. I'd say it's a part of a wing rib, aluminium, and it's got a stud there on the end where it was fixed. The skin was fixed to it. Some faint traces of that pale green primer that was used on US aircraft from the factory. So there's probably P40. I mean, the Australian aircraft had the same sort of primer anyway, but they're built in Australia. So yeah, I'd say there's been probably a battle damaged aircraft been abandoned here, or bits of it have been anyway, and just slung into the scrub and replaced with the good parts, but who knows. Anyway, another good find. On we go. Okay, more aircraft parts. It's a hinge panel section with the pin for the hinge. Once again, it's got that green primer on it. I would say that this it's obviously been a lot of big bushfires through here. It greens up in the wet season, but any bits of aluminium that have been laying in the ground have just been fried basically, and you only get pieces like this that are left. There's actually a lot of coagulated lumps of aluminium like that. The detector was just going off here, so something's melted here. Actually, here's another piece of panel over here. Yeah. I say some poor old Kittyhawk's met its end here, and it's been finished off by the bushfires. Anyway, I'll keep hunting around here and we'll see what... Well, I hope everyone you've enjoyed that little hunt I've had in this remote World War II airstrip site. These revetments, came up with a couple of military relics there. I've hunted a few of these old World War II airstrips in the past on Cape York, and the problem is that because it's an airstrip, it's such a large area, you need to find the personnel concentrations is difficult, and but when you do though, it's always worthwhile. There's always plenty of relics where the people were camped, the personnel, but around these aircraft revetments, generally just like I've found pieces of aircraft and ammunition and that sort of thing. But it's still been a lot of fun. I'm going to have a bit more exploring around here before I head back to camp, but I hope you've enjoyed that video. Thanks very much for watching, and happy hunting everybody. Bye for now. Okay, well, this part of the video there's no metal detecting. This is a war grave. It's the crash site of a Australian National Airways DC-3 Dakota. It's not a C-47, it's not a military aircraft. Tail registration, incredibly, still just visible on the tail there after 70 years lying here in the bush. VHCXD was the registration. As you can just make out the VH-C on it. It was actually seconded to the RAAF with auxiliary pilots. There were 4 Australians on board and 2 Americans on their way to New Guinea. And it crashed here early in the morning in April 1945, just after 5:15 in the morning. I imagine poor visibility or bad weather, and unfortunately the way this airstrip's constructed, the airstrip's lower than the terrain around it, so this little mound, this hill, meant the end of this aircraft. This is the main fuselage, as you can see. An engine nacelle there and part of the main wing. There's an engine lying over here in the up the front, and back behind it there's a debris path of bits of aircraft. All of it's been undisturbed, which is great to see because the public's not, they're respecting this site for what it is. It's a war grave from World War II, so it's been left in this condition, undisturbed, as a tribute to those men that died in service of their country. And there's a little memorial there with a couple of flagpoles where they raise the US and Australian flags on Anzac Day, I would imagine. Yeah, so that's a fairly sad little site in the bush, but anyway, like I said, it's nice to see it's not being destroyed by souvenir hunters and relic hunters. Well, just on my way out of the bush from that DC-3 wreck, that war grave, and I've just come across this little piece, or this large piece of the aircraft, which we're about 100 metres behind the aircraft. I'd say this is where it impacted the hill. You can see clearly there, this is one of the wings with the main spar, and it's where it's impacted on a tree. So I'd say this is the actual point of impact where this aircraft hit the terrain on the way into that airstrip. Oh, terribly sad place, but like I said, sometimes these things are better left in situ than salvaged and put in museums and things. So yeah, it's a pretty poignant spot, but there we go. It's another part of that DC-3. Hey, check out the size of this termite mound. Must be 10 feet tall. A few inhabitants in there, I reckon. These things are way old, and it's like concrete, this stuff, so it's unbelievably strong construction material. A lot of the old stuff, old houses in the goldfields are built out of this ant bed, they call it, because it's just like concrete. It's all regurgitated earth that the termites dug up, so that's only a little one too. There's bigger ones around than this, but anyway, you might want to see that one. I just on my way back to camp. It's a ripper. Righto, keep going.